Everyone, welcome to the webinar. We'll get started in a minute or so. Thank you for joining us today. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, thank you for joining us for this hour webinar. We're excited to have you. If you have any questions, just a housekeeping item throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat section. And we will also have a 10-minute or so time frame to do some Q&A at the end. So the title of this webinar is Streamlining, Batching, and Mixing, How to Automate, Optimize, and Improve Operations. So what that means for the next hour is we're going to get into the weeds on how a fully integrated technology approach when it comes to recipe management, batch management, quality control, scheduling, inventory traceability, can not only streamline your operations, but also improve the bottom line for your business by having the right information at the right time to be more strategic and make better decisions. So in the next slide, here is a quick snapshot of what we will be covering today. So once we get through introductions here in the next couple of minutes, we'll discuss the current state of what a lot of our customers are dealing with and the business challenges they are facing that go along with that. Then we'll dive into a reference architecture of what a fully integrated technology approach could look like and the outcomes that it could enable for your business. And then we will go through a Q&A at the end. With that being said, we are thrilled to host this webinar with Revolution Group and LSI as our partners. We have Pat Welsh with Revolution Group, Charlie Rassel with LSI, and then myself and Mark Jopper with FactoryTalk, which is our digital transformation team within the Renson House Industrial Solutions Network. So for some quick introductions for ourselves and our partners, FactoryTalk is an extended team of Renson House, or the Industrial Solutions Network, focused on supporting our customers on their digital transformation journey. So bringing that IT, OT convergence together through software and data. As a subsidiary of CED, which has over 700 physical locations nationwide, we have around 100 of those locations focused in the past 30 years to support electrical and automation needs of our industrial customers. We even have over 100 engineers nationwide, so a national company with a local touch. We have prioritized solutions or personalized solutions depending on our customers' industry and size. We support folks from single location, family-owned businesses all the way to Fortune 500 customers. We have historically supported you locally with everything from PLCs, HMIs, motors, and everything you need when you look at level 0 and level 1 on the model shown on the screen. But with our extended domain experts, our focus on particular preferred vendors, and our ecosystem partnerships, now we have the ability to support anything above the machine level to fully integrate that plant floor all the way up to the enterprise to provide a turnkey solution. To the right, you'll also see a handful, but not all of our preferred partnerships. We're a Dell Gold partner, along with Microsoft, Cisco, Fortinet, Stratus, and of course, Rockwell Automation. And this leads to a great segue to introduce our partners today. We're very excited to have Revolution Group and LSI as our main presenters. FactoryTalk's mission is really to provide the hardware and software all the way up to the C-suite, and we lean really closely with our partners that have that extensive expertise to implement these solutions for our customers. So LSI and Revolution Group are both Rockwell Gold system integrators, with LSI having been around since 1985 and highly respected when it comes to the controls engineering and integration side of things. And then Revolution Group with over 20 years of experience integrating Plex ERP systems down from the enterprise down. So with their partnership coming together, they've decided to come together and partner. They provide a very seasoned expertise when it comes to implementing a fully integrated business from the enterprise all the way down to the plant floor. So we're really excited to have them today, and I'm going to hand it off, with that being said, to Mark Jopru to go over what we're seeing from our customers when it comes to the current state of their business. I'll hand it off to you, Mark.
Thanks, Andrea. Appreciate your introduction as well. And let me also extend my welcome to everyone who's taken the time to join this event today. Super excited to have our domain experts and partners on the call to talk about it. I'm going to set the stage for what we see in a lot of, let's say, factories and or production operations today. What is that current situation? Next. So one thing that is evident in a lot of the manufacturing facilities, the production facilities, is there's one product, but that one product might have multiple recipes out there. For example, could have corporate product management, as in that master recipe is controlled at corporate. A fully costed formulation and a system of record, a source of the truth for how that's produced in every plant controlled by corporate. So that's one way. Another way is, let's call it site product management. So there's still a master product recipe, but it might be adjusted based on the production capabilities at each site. May not be exactly the same. Potentially a concern, but again, different levels of production capability may require it. Also, part of a current situation, paper batch records. Manual records on paper referenced by an operator to set up and record the batch. So both the setting up and the recording after a production run happens manually. And finally, manufacturing batch automation, or parameters manually loaded to batching automation to control the physical batching and mixing process equipment. So a manual might be an automated production, but still manually loaded this manufacturing batch. So again, one product, multiple recipes is part of the current state of how production gets done today. So I wanted to share that too. Next slide. Another current situation to speak of is new product introduction, or how modifications might be made to a given product, or not just a modification, but introducing a whole brand new product in a market for production needs. And something to share about that is that could be developed by a cross-functional team, again, possibly a corporate of who is the product engineering, might be from a quality standpoint, an improvement, could be operations relative to different vendors being sourced, or different ingredients might not be available anymore, as one example. What's highlighted on the left side might be a exploded recipe of what is being made. We've highlighted a ingredient and or an amount of the ingredient that could be adjusted, but how is that communicated across the enterprise and all of the production requirements? Another thing to highlight is the system of record for producing that, the quality of it, HACCP, and how to implement that across multiple lines. Next slide. Still talking about the current system of production and recording information. One of those is, how are batches recorded and how are they tracked and traced through production? One way that is currently done today, and we see this frequently, is a manual record of that production. The quantity, lot assignments, the ingredients that have been consumed, as well as the quality inspection data that has been done, manually being recorded. We also see it being manually created by production planning, independent of corporate and product management. Another source of information is, let's say, it's manually collected, but then it's physically uploaded into a manufacturing execution system or a quality management system after the fact offline, which is it just is what it is. And that is some of the current situation going on. And I'm sure a lot of you see clipboards and paper in the facilities, even though you have a lot of course, automation in every factory now. Andrea, next. And then finally, one of the current situations that we see a lot is, let's call it separate systems for batching applications versus what the operator actually touches, and they're not connected. So the configuration and control of the equipment, the batching equipment and the process might be different from the actual implementation or the recipe. The recipe might be manually loaded into the equipment or the machinery and the batching system, and those are not necessarily connected. As you could expect, that could cause or introduce potential errors and issues into the system. So what I wanted to try in just the first few slides is to kind of set the stage for, of course, what we're going to be talking about. So what are the current situation of our manufacturing plants and operations for whether it's food processing or other type of production environment. So I think with that, I will turn it over to Charlie to talk about some challenges.
Thanks, Mark. And there, the situations Mark discussed, some people have all of them, some people have none of them. It's usually some sort of a combination, and it causes business challenges, real business issues about throughput and quality and recalls. And so if we go to the next slide, what we'd like to ask everybody right now is we've got a poll that we can do and asking you, what is the biggest challenge you're facing in your business right now? And if you'll just click on the one, whether it be production quality efficiency, quality is disconnected, or track and trace capability is limited. And if you'll just click, and we're going to collect the poll results and take a look at what is the largest challenges facing you. It'll pop up once we get most of you clicking on it. All right, and do we have the results, Cindy?
Yes, we have 46% decreased production and quality efficiency, 23% quality disconnected from production, and 31% track and trace capability.
Okay, great. We want to dive into those just a little bit and look at them and how they're being caused by the conditions that Mark did. So if we look at the next slide, we can look at increased waste. Mark talked about the challenges with the recipes. Did we do it right? And one of these impacts on the business is increased waste because we don't follow the recipe correctly each time. Or we're using an outdated recipe. We've added a new ingredient. It's not being run correctly. One of the big ones is we advance the completed batch before the quality inspection. Some of this is by how we do quality, but really you need to hold a batch until it passes all the quality before you move to the next step. So if you're making paint, before you take it off to package it, make sure it meets quality. If you're making cheese or you're making cookies, before you send the dough to be baked, pass the quality. Sometimes people don't have the systems to do that. You go through the baking process, you go partly into packaging and realize I got a quality issue and I've got to scrap all that. With these systems, there's always the possibility of introducing the wrong ingredient. So that can cause problems with waste. You can also see in the next slide, another one of the business issues people have is decreased efficiency. The operator's manually entering the data for the batch application. It just takes time to do that and do it correctly. There's batch variability. They don't have a good recipe to handle that. They're trying to add a little bit more of water to the solution, maybe a little bit more salt, who knows. That's just taking longer to complete the batches, reduces your overall throughput. You also may be looking at mock recalls to meet all the requirements of the federal government, FSMA, and so forth. You've got to be able to know if you can do recalls. How long is it going to take you to actually do the recall in times? And you're not sure what's happening, what's going to be produced next. Having the quality technicians ready for the product being produced, you're really not sure across the plant what's happening, good visibility. These decrease your efficiencies. And then on the next slide, we see the quality issues. Quality is disconnected from production. We've released a product, we packaged it, it's sitting there in finished goods, and then we find out that there's a quality issue and we've got to hold that product. The quality and HACCP are maintained in separate systems. So if you want to look at how's my quality doing, I want to improve things, I want the golden batch. It's like, well, I've got to get some process parameters from one system, I've got to go get the quality data from another, and you're not really able to look at how to improve your process because the data are in too many different places. And if it's not in the system, it's even worse, it's on a piece of paper or in a file cabinet someplace, and you have to go look for that to look at the batch and what happened and how do I improve that. So these are all some of the business issues people are facing. And on the next slide, the last one is this track and trace. We've got to be able to do track and trace. If there is a product out in the field that there is a problem with, you've got to recall all the products impacted. And I'm afraid that a lot of times what happens is people don't have good tracking and tracing, so they go, I think that raw ingredient came in probably the 1st of March and we probably finished it the end of March. I'm not sure, so I'm going to take all the product manufactured from February to April off the shelves, which means a very high cost. And you also want to know to be able to look at the batch records to see that single vision of all of the material. And track and trace impacts you. It can cost you a lot in recalls, and also being able to look at, it didn't come out quite right, what raw ingredients did I really use? So now it's kind of like, boy, these are business problems. And now we're going to move to the next slide and start talking, and Pat's going to talk about a solution to solve these business problems. Pat?
Thanks, Charlie. And thanks, Mark, for setting the stage, for sharing your customer experiences, your experiences with your specific customers. I'm going to share with you all how we're addressing these business challenges with a strategic combination of market-leading technologies made available by Rockwell Automation. We've connected Plex Cloud MES and quality management systems with FactoryTalk Batch by using FactoryTalk Optix on the edge. With these combined technologies, I will show you how we've simplified the operator's experience while making production and quality data available to everyone in real time. Next slide, please. The recipe is comprised of formulation data, as you all, I'm sure, are aware, quality specifications, and controls data required to control the physical process. We're storing and maintaining each data point in a single place where product engineering, operations, quality, and finance can participate in recipe change control. Next. The recipe formulation includes charge amounts of each ingredient, as well as the primary steps or phases of production. In this example, we're tracking 3 different phases. These are, of course, all configurable by the customer, by the manufacturer. So these 3 phases we're tracking are batching, where ingredients are introduced, mixing, in a final quality inspection step. The formulation also includes other details such as target production rates and setup times, which can be used for planning or costing purposes, as well as the mixers that are approved to make the batch. Next, please. We consider the quality specifications as well as part of the recipe. And these are defined and assigned to check sheets that we'll show you a little bit later, that are used to collect data at any step or phase of batching. Each specification can include reaction plans and corrective actions if they are found to be out of spec. Next. This recipe data that I just showed you is shared with FT batch, which also includes additional process control recipe information. So we're automatically synchronizing the corporate quality information, recipe information with the controls information in FT batch. So together, the operator has a single view of the most current and approved recipe when it's time to produce that batch. Next. The same recipe is referenced to create production job or a batch ticket, often referred to. Plex production scheduling can be used for master planning, or the master plan can be shared from the corporate ERP application, as is the case in many customers. Production jobs are managed in the job dispatch, which I'll show you in a minute, where the planner can adjust the schedule to accommodate unplanned interruptions. Changes made to the schedule are immediately visible to operations in real time. Everyone has the visibility to the plan for the next hour, shift, day, or week to appropriately plan resources. So those in quality can actually see what the schedule is and see how many resources they need how many quality techs they need to support the production plan. And as I'll show you a little bit later, they'll actually be able to see the progression of batches so they can plan their activity throughout the plant. Production and quality also have a simple mechanism to communicate to the shop floor critical production alerts, bulletins, or quality deviations and inspection instructions. Next slide. So this is an example of the production schedule data available to the planner to make daily scheduling decisions. As I mentioned earlier, these jobs could be created using the master planning functionality in Plex MES, or these could be created in the company's ERP solution and handed off to Plex. What we typically see though is the operator of the planner who's planning the days, the shift's activity, are viewing this information to make sure that they're working on the next batch that has the highest priority. What's just as important, I'll show you in a minute, this information is shared with the operator in a much more simplified view so that he or she is working on the exact plan or the exact batch that is the highest priority at the time. And just as importantly, it's the batch that has the raw materials and ingredients available to actually successfully produce the batch. I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is an example of a quality check sheet that is can be completed by either a quality tech or the cook that documents the inspection actually happened and what testing happened. These are, of course, very simplified version of a check sheet. If this check sheet fails the process, as I mentioned earlier, a reaction plan that's already documented is communicated to the quality tech or the operator, and how to react and what actions to take. This a failed check sheet can also immediately place that lot of inventory on hold, such that it can be adjusted or reworked, or if necessary, scrapped before it goes on to secondary processes. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, the operator has a simplified view of the production schedule, so he or she can simply pick the next batch that's planned to run. Once that batch is selected, if you go to the next slide.
Yeah, and Pat, one of the key things too with this, using Optix as an edge device, is that production schedule is automatically downloaded to the operator. They don't have to do anything.
Right.
It's available to them on the screen, on their HMI, next to the piece of equipment.
Right. Thanks, Charlie. So once the operator selects the batch, the batch ticket recipe information related to that particular product that's on that batch ticket is shared with FT batch. And the operator, as Charlie mentioned, can focus on the process and not really on having to maintain recipe information to actually set up the batch. Next. This is the operator's view of the process through FT batch. On the left, you can see the ingredients as they light up as they're physically being added to the batch. You can note the green highlights there. We're automatically capturing lot information of the macro ingredients based on the vessel that was actually used for the batch. So we have all that information from the controls, and in combination with Plex MES, we have the lot information and the inventory information that's actually sitting in those vessels. We also capture the lot numbers of micro ingredients based on the operator's input. These are for hand adds, typically a scan of a barcode that's on the product, the ingredient specifically. When the charge is complete, the production of the batch phase is automatically completed, and the inventory in appropriate lots of ingredients are consumed in real time. Most importantly, we are building trace records behind the scenes with really no additional effort from the operator or the quality control, which I'll show you in a few moments. Next.
Yeah, and this and the next one, the nice thing is everything's being done in the background. You don't have the operator looking at something, trying to type in, oh, I need 100 pounds of this, and I need to mix it as in this stage for 20 minutes. The data through the Optix edge device is downloaded from Plex, passed to FT batch. The operator, when he clicks on the order he wants to run, she'll just be watching the screen and watching each of the steps proceed through the batching application. And they're there doing what they should be doing, which is observing it. Everything's operating correctly. As you can see, gray screen. In this stage, it's mixing. So that and the capture of the data is automatically passed through Optix up to Plex. So the operator doesn't have to say, I pumped in 10 pounds or I pumped in 30 pounds. Automatically captured and set up through the edge device.
Great, thanks, Charlie. In our example, we're requiring a quality check sheet be successfully completed at the end of the mix phase, which is configurable by the manufacturer. Of course, you can make that decision to prompt a check sheet data collection at any point in the process. But in our example, upon a completion of the mix phase, the operator is presented with a check sheet requiring the documentation of testing steps before the mix can actually be advanced to the next manufacturing step. Next slide.
And Pat, one quick thing to tell the audience
Sure.
too, with this is, this was set up with this demo, and we're glad to afterwards to run the demo for you so you can see it. But it was set up using Plant PAX and FT batch. But that was just for the demo. If there's a third-party recipe management system, we can connect that through Optix. That's one of the powers of using Optix there, is we can connect to third-party systems. If the people have a recipe that's just in the Logix controllers, we can connect to that through Optix. So you have a lot of flexibility and don't have to like restart all of your redo all your operations, do the connection.
Right. Great. Thanks, Charlie. Oh, so as I mentioned earlier, behind the scenes production is being captured in real time at each phase. This is all automated. We're not asking an operator to key in any information that's happening based on what's happening in the actual controls. Next slide.
I wanted to just add to that as well, Pat. You know, and that's what's really the difference here. What are we talking about? Plex has been around for a while. Batch has been around for a while. And of course, we represent Rockwell and sell the Rockwell versions of those great products. But what very rarely has it really been well connected. And if it's not connected, you don't have the information about it. You don't have as tight of coupling of control, or you introduce quality potential issues. And so by navigating, the connectivity of it together, what Pat and Charlie are talking about doing, it's really impressive. And to be able to do it somewhat automatically gives you that real time nature of that information, instead of hopefully at the end of the shift, hopefully when somebody fills in all the stuff, oh, I hope they filled it in correctly. But you've got it real time, as accurate as possible, which is great for historical record keeping, track and trace, as well as for consistency of the product itself. So just wanted to add that. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. That's good to have your insights, both you guys, from what's really happening out in the field. So as I mentioned, full production details are captured, and this is just an example of some of the details that are captured and happening automatically. So who produced the batch, of course, how much and what quantity of unit measure was actually produced successfully, where the mixture was used, what mixture was used, how long it took to compare to plan, any downtime or waste that was recorded can also be captured automatically. Next slide. In addition to the production records, specific quality measurements and results are captured and related to the specific lots of that were produced in the mix. So we frequently, every one of our customers are capturing, they're taking quality measurements, but oftentimes, as Mark shared earlier, what we see is that's done in some type of paper document on a clipboard, or maybe it's in an Excel or Microsoft Office document and filed away. Never really related to the inventory that was actually produced, the product that was actually related to, except through a paper trail. We're also building forward and backward traceability records, which I frequently refer to as a byproduct of doing transactions in Plex MES. There's really no additional effort required to achieve that. This traceability facilitates recalls in minutes rather than in hours or days, which we oftentimes will see a mock recall. It takes several hours for a customer to dig through their paperwork in manual batch and lot records. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is just example of the traceability, and we're showing the upstream trace right there. These are all the ingredients that were introduced to the process. As I mentioned earlier, the macro ingredients are being introduced automatically based on the vessels from which they're pulled. The micro ingredients are being scanned into the process. If you want to go to the next slide. And this is another graphical presentation of that. We see that we produced this batch. In the batching process, we consumed salt, sugar, milk, and vanilla flavor, and those are the specific lot numbers from which we consumed to make that batch. And then that batch was advanced into the mix operation, and then finally went through a quality inspection step.
And Pat, you know, as Mark mentioned, you've been mentioning, this really helps clients that are looking at this whole digital transformation. How do I go from a bunch of separate systems, half of them being paper, some of them in databases, to a full digital transformation, which is what Factory XT is working with their clients to do, which is to do that so it's collected. And now you have the data. It's a data-driven process. As you've demonstrated here, you've got all the results in one spot. So you can look at actual production. You can look at waste. You can look at quality. You can put, and we've been working with clients in developing technologies on top of this to really do a batch review. You could put this data into a product like Data Mosaics and Rockwell and really do different type of analysis there to really help you on that whole digital transformation journey.
Thank you, Charlie. And yep, if you want to go to our last slide here, you know, this has to repeat a little bit of what Charlie shared. This technology strategy really enables our customers to consistently produce high quality products with efficiency while minimizing waste. Quality controls the process rather than sitting on the sideline of the process, and prevents poor quality batches from being advanced to the next step. Most importantly, production and quality performance, as Charlie mentioned, is visible to all team members, supporting continuous improvement efforts that are backed by real data that's readily available at your fingertips. Doesn't require a big data collection effort to really evaluate what's happening in the plant and make decisions on how to adjust or how to improve your processes. With that, I'll hand it back to Andrea.
Thanks, Pat. I think that's wrapped everything up pretty much. We have the last minutes here to really open it up to a Q&A. We spoke at you for a good 40 minutes and wanted to hear any feedback or any comments from the audience. Does anyone have any questions after we walked through that presentation? And Cindy, what's the best way for people to ask questions? Is it just to type in the chat?
Yes, type in the chat, or I can unmute if they raise their hand.
Yeah, we could go ahead and just... Oh, go ahead, Mark.
While that's spooling up, I thought I would just add a comment and maybe a question for Pat or Charlie. But, you know, what's really different to me is that Optix providing that connectivity between the systems to allow you to do some of that real-time information. But also change management is something that I mentioned, current state. Pat, if corporate changes the recipe on a product, or they're introducing a slightly new product, the light version of a product that might have less sugar in it or something like that, how does that get changed all the way through and make sure that that all of the operators are using the latest information and that gets transferred through? I would think that'd be important.
Great question, Mark. So the change process can either be controlled in Plex MES through their change management, or if that happens in a ERP system outside of our product development application, that gets shared ultimately the recipe gets updated, the details of it get updated in Plex MES, and that information is shared as the job is set up, the batch is being set up to be produced, that information is shared real time. So at the time that we begin the production process, we're pulling current recipe information directly from Plex MES.
Don't need to have a manual update to a process, make sure that's at every workstation, as well as that gets translated down. It just happens. It's part of the update, or by having that automated process. Change it once and it's changed everywhere.
Right. Charlie, you're muted.
And you set up the control level so it comes down. If you've added something to the chocolate, you added a little vanilla or something, it passes down all of the ingredients and the values it's needed, and nothing's being stored for that down in the control level. It's always downloading from Plex for each time it runs into the procedures that have been built into the control system. So you don't have a problem. And if you found that you need to mix it for 30 minutes instead of 20, you change that at the Plex level, and everybody knows I need to mix this for 30 minutes now. Or the other big thing is process set points. That can be downloaded too. It's held in Plex. You know how long, the temperature you need to hold it at, and that's set down. And if you then quality analysis and say, boy, I really need to run that at 55 degrees Fahrenheit instead of 50, you change it only once in Plex. And down to your site or multiple sites, you pass that one data point.
Looks like we have a question from the audience. If you are, if you are manually adding a macro ingredient and say you need 30 pounds of cornmeal, but your holding container has 20, requiring opening a new bag with a different lot number, are you able to have 2 lots recorded for the same ingredient?
Yes, great question. If we went back to the visual, Andrea, if you want to it's just a few slides back. There you go. So in your example, let's say that sugar, we had more than one lot of sugar. You would see both lots displayed here, indicating that we drew from 2 different sources, 2 different raw material lots. And you can have as many as you want, of course. But, and most of the time in macro ingredients, you do end up having multiple lots.
Question.
And then Cindy, I think you said there's another spot with more questions. I don't see it. Can you please read them?
Sure. We have another question. How will it handle ingredient substitutions? Example, bulk system goes down. We used bag product on the fly.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as part of the recipe, as more of an advanced part of the recipe, we can predefine what allowable substitutes are and share that information as part of the recipe. So when it comes time to make the change or switch to that substitute, it really, to the process, to the operator, it looks just like a valid recipe, a valid ingredient in the recipe.
Hey, and you have the flexibility when the operator goes, if they've got 2 silos of milk, they can choose one of the silos and it's captured which silo they use, so it goes up to Plex. Both silos are past quality inspection, they're ready to be used, but you can pass that up also. And that's why the service deployment of this is important, to spend time asking the questions that are coming up right now, which is, what kind of flexibility do I want in my system? And being able to have that flexibility because of combined experience in both the MES layer and the factory floor layer. A lot of this happens, as people know, as somebody changes some control system on the back and they try and talk to an ERP vendor about how to do that. And it's not a great conversation because you got two people almost talking different languages. And that's why we've been working together to have just one group of people listening in ears. And with FactoryXT, so you've got one group to do that as opposed to a lot of people almost in different languages.
Right, and maybe that was obvious from the presentation that you guys did, but I think it explicitly makes sense to mention that, you know, with Pat and the Revolution Group, decades of experience implementing Plex and manufacturing execution systems, systems of records, LSI, decades of experience operationally in the plant floor, the PLCs, the batches, and so you combine the two powers of Revolution Group and LSI, hopefully supported by FactoryXT, providing everything from the networks to the hardware and the software to have them deploy that in that real integrated system from the enterprise down to the automation layer, and to be able to have it connected, to be able to get the information both flowing down the schedule as well as flowing up with the information and data quality and tracking. It's a really exciting time for some of us that have spent a few years in this industry. The level of automation and connectivity is really exciting that we can do for our clients today.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. We had one more question. We use a lot of hand add manually weighted ingredients, which are then manually keyed into Plex. Can parameters be set up to prevent large discrepancies being recorded against a variable BOM?
That sounds like a question coming from a Plex customer. So we use the variable bill of material to set those upper and lower limits and share that information with FactoryTalk batch, such that we can prevent an excessive amount of ingredient being added to outside the upper or lower limits.
Yeah, we would, as you're saying, Pat, we download the limits down to the operators, so they would see that and they would do the hand adds and check the weight and see what they put in, and that data would go up into the variable BOM up in Plex. So the actuals are captured for that individual batch.
And then another question, silos are rarely emptied before refilling and load cells in silos are notoriously off, referring to say sugar. Is living with some deviation on lots in silos usage just a way of life, or do you feel it is accurate based on delivery quantities inputted into the system?
So we do use some particular application functionality in Plex referred to as silo management, which provides a log of transactions both in and out of the silo. So it really depends on the accuracy of the adds. We're really confident that the accuracy of the depletion or the consumption is down to the detailed consumption amount based on, because we're pulling it right from the controls. But you can see those transactions using the silo management functionality in Plex against a particular vessel.
And then another question, or Charlie, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead and read it. I saw the same question.
Oh, so specifically for the baking industry, if we mix a batch of dough and it's, let's say, too wet, we can rework the dough back into the next batch. Right now, we have a rework part and we have to manually add to the job BOM. It's not part of the normal recipe. Is there a question?
Yeah. This adjustment is really important, and this person brought up one of the two versions. One's relatively easy, which is you come at the end and it's too wet and you can just add a little extra flour, you're allowed to do that, and it meets quality and you pass it on. Pat, what they're talking about is tracking it. Basically, you'll have a failed product that will go back and have to then be set up and come back and adjusted later. And Plex can track all that. You just have to set up the operator controls to deal with that. It'd probably be in the mixing vessel, and you take it off to the side.
Yeah, that's right, Charlie. We actually created an application that allows a user to disassemble, essentially, break down those ingredients, break down in the case here, the batch of dough back to its ingredients, and then reintroduce those ingredients to the process as if they're raw materials, while maintaining complete traceability that went through the production process and then got reintroduced as an ingredient to the same production process. Those, we don't currently have that functionality in the integration with FactoryTalk Batch, but there's nothing to prevent us from adding that.
Thanks, and I think that's all the questions in the chat. Cindy, do you see any other in the question area?
One more. How will it handle these types of transactions? I think that's a follow-up to what we just answered.
And one of the things we're doing is we're closely working with the Rockwell product teams and the Plex product teams on these efforts. And what they're relying on us for is our industry expertise. As we work with people in this specific area or some of our other batching to understand exactly the type of processes you're talking about, to make sure that it can be done in Plex as easily as possible, using different techniques that Plex has for moving data back and forth. So we're meeting like every couple of weeks with the teams, talking about these issues and determining the best way to set up systems for handling them.
Yeah, maybe to answer the question, the follow-up question is, that's a Plex application to handle that transaction, which basically means that we could extend it to FactoryTalk Batch or whatever batch process or control application is in place.
Great. Well, I think that wraps up our questions. Thanks everyone for joining our presentation today. We enjoyed having you. Thanks again, Pat and Charlie, for presenting and giving your perspective and expertise. We would love to follow up with you if you have more questions. As Charlie had mentioned prior, happy to walk through a demo that they actually showed at Automation Fair late last year. So please reach out to us if you would like to set up a follow-up conversation or interested in learning more. But thanks again for joining, and everyone have a good rest of your day.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Good job.
I believe.